Alright, so on this problem right here, the clues were already given, and we're going to go ahead and match those up. First clue, I'm going to fill out in red. Geraldine writes about food in her column. So you go to Geraldine, you match her with food, and that's an open circle there. And then you're also going to X out anything else for her under that area. And she also writes for the watch. Okay. And the second part says the column sound off appears in the post. So the column sound off appears in the post, which would be right here. And you're going to X out everything from that point on. And then you're also going to go match with sound off and food. Or I'm sorry, you're going to match food with on the watch. That was Geraldine works on the watch, that's her column, and writes about food, and it does food and on the watch match. Okay? Alright, now I'm going to read the next clue number 3. So all of the things in red are clue number 1. All of number 1 and number 2. Sorry. Number 1 and number 2. Everything in blue is going to be clue numbers 3 and 4. Okay? So Olivia writes about politics, so you go to Olivia and politics. And you start filling in those boxes there. Okay? Then the next part is the column Straight Talk, which is not written by Christopher. So Straight Talk is not written by Christopher. Is devoted to sports. So Straight Talk is devoted to sports. And that'll match right there. And Christopher does not write about sports because that's what Straight Talk does. So Christopher and Straight Talk do not go together. And it appears in the news. So Christopher does not work for the news either. The news has sports in it and Straight Talk. So you start getting to know everything here. That'll pretty much cover everything that we know so far about clues 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're going to fill in clue numbers 5 and 6. It says that the column My Turn appears on the trib. The column My Turn appears on the trib, so those go together. And it does not have an arts column. So it does not have an arts column. And My Turn and arts do not go together. Okay. The next clue is Delilah, who doesn't work for the Times. So Delilah does not work for the Times. Writes about business. So she writes about business. Column the last word. So Delilah writes for the last word. Nobody else is going to write for the last word. And from there, just from there, That's all we get. Now everything else that I'm going to do, so that covers clue numbers 5 and number 6. And if you notice now, all others are going to be in green. Here is another, oops. Alright, so I'll put the next. What's the next? Okay, so leave that for the next. Okay. So now we know that sports matches with Matthew. Now we already know which column writes about the sports, that's the news. So Matthew writes about the news. And he writes about sports. Okay. Sports also matches with straight talk, or I'm sorry, news matches with straight talk. That means Matthew matches with straight talk. Okay. And news matches with straight talk and sports. So from there now we know that Matthew does straight talk and talks about sports. If you notice, we also have another clue to fill in. We know that the arts matches with Christopher. So Christopher does the arts. Now we got to match the arts, okay, with anything else. Arts is either sound off or my turn. Okay. We also know what else here. Now we know that my turn matches with the trib. And the only things that are going to match with my turn are going to be Christopher or Olivia. Olivia writes about politics. So let's go ahead and pause and see if you guys can fill in the rest of those. Okay, so can you explain that again? You're Xing out Chris and Trip because Trip doesn't offer an art subject. Trip, okay, the Tribune does not offer an art subject. Okay, good. Anything else you see there? No, nothing else? Okay. Anybody else see something? Maybe you see something else? No? Alright. Now this is, you guys gotta start, you guys gotta think, man. It's gotta, you guys gotta come from you now. Okay? I need some help here. I'm only gonna wait another minute. If I don't get any answers, then I'm just gonna stop and you guys have to finish the rest on your own. I did put the answer in the back, but that does you no good if you guys can't get to it. Okay? Alright? So nothing else? Justin, you see something else?
Yeah, we can cross out my turn.
Alright, let's cross out my turn right here with who?
For Christopher.
Mark, okay, let's figure out why can we cross out my turn for Christopher?
My turn appears in the Tribune.
Okay, my turn appears in the Tribune, is that correct? Yes. That means Christopher is not in the Tribune. Since he's not in the Tribune, then he can't do my turn. Which, do you see, by doing that, now you got another answer? Christopher does sound off. And by doing that, now you got another answer. What else do I know now? Olivia has my turn. Okay. So if Olivia has my turn,
Are you doing these in green? Just do them in green.
everything that I'm getting from now on is because I've already filled out all of the clues. And everything that I'm doing in green is because of all of the clues that have been given already.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Olivia, does my turn, but don't we know something about my turn already? Come on. Nope, you guys need to help me out. You guys gotta think here. My turn does the arts.
Tribune.
My turn is on the Tribune, so let's check. My turn is on the Tribune. That means who does the Tribune then? You already know this. Come on, people. Olivia. I think nobody else can do the Tribune but Olivia, and Olivia can't do any other newspaper. Okay? So Olivia does the Tribune. She writes in the column for my turn, and she does politics. Matthew writes for the news, writes under the column of straight talk, and does sports. Geraldine writes under the on the watch and writes about food. Can we use anything here with on the watch and food, Pedal? What do you see? On the watch is either the Times or Herald, right? Okay. And food is on the watch. So Geraldine does food thing. So Geraldine, since Geraldine does food, Geraldine is on the watch. Okay? Alright, so Geraldine is on the watch, okay? And from there, on the watch is either the Herald or the Times. So can we eliminate one of those two, the Herald or the Times right now for on the watch? Everybody here just gotta start helping out.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure where you are.
Go ahead, Justin.
Because I have the first box completely filled out, but I'm not sure. I can't remember how I got it.
Okay, that's why I'm trying to get to that point. For Geraldine with the Times then. Anything? Because it's either, Geraldine either does Herald or the Times. Because Geraldine does food. Food is on the watch. Okay. And the watch only has these two options. So actually we can fill something else in. Geraldine does not do then the post for sure. Okay, Geraldine does not do the post. It's either the Times or the Herald. Now, do you notice that the post is only going to be one of two people, Christopher or Delilah?
Yeah.
Can we use anything to help us eliminate Christopher or Delilah from the post?
Christopher does sound off, and sound off appears in the post.
Okay, Christopher does sound off, and does sound off appear in the post?
Yes.
Yes, so that means Christopher does the post, yes?
Yes.
All right. Now you see things are starting to fill in. Now we know somebody else.
Geraldine is in the Times.
Geraldine does the Times. Geraldine can do nothing else. That means Delilah is on the Herald. Okay? Now we have all the top filled up. Christopher works for the Post, does sound off, and writes about the arts. That would be filled in. Delilah writes for the Herald, writes in the column my last word, and writes about business. Geraldine works for the Times, writes on the column on the watch, and writes about food. Matthew writes on the newspaper The News, under the column Straight Talk, and writes about sports. And Olivia writes for the Tribune under the column of My Turn and writes about politics. Now we can fill the rest of this in now. Delilah is for the Herald, and she writes about business. So Delilah,
The post does the arts.
does the arts.
Yeah.
So let's go to the post and match it with there. You get me right there so far? Yeah? Okay. And then we're going to, Geraldine writes for the Times, and the Times is, she writes on the watch, but she writes about food, so Geraldine and food. And that starts to fill in right there. Right? Who writes under the last word? Delilah, and Delilah's under the Herald. Okay. And now we got one last box to fill in. The arts should match with sound off. Business should match with the last word. And leaves you with the last three filter. All right. So